Hello, BookTube. I often say on this channel that you can't redo a mail haul. Some YouTubers have raised an eyebrow at that, but the reason why I say it on this channel is because I open my mail live on camera. I don't know what I'm going to see until I open the package and see it. That wasn't always the way. A very, very early video of mine, a number of you sent it to me in response to my recent video about being 8 years on BookTube. A lot of you sent me this one particular video where I'm talking about some new arrivals in the mail. I'm talking in a quiet voice. I've got senior citizen dogs on either side of me. They both make appearances in the video. And I'm not opening packages there because that would have driven them crazy. They wouldn't have known what to make of that chaos. So I'm not opening packages and wasn't really sure whether or not I would ever open packages on camera. Thought it would be a mess. Maybe doubted whether or not I'd have anything to say about the books, just cold off the top of my head. I should have doubted that, that's for sure. So instead, I fell into the habit of opening my mail live on camera, which means you can't redo that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't do a mail haul video, even so. I did a normal Steve mail haul video earlier today with a whole bunch of packages and also some periodicals. And for whatever reason, I know the reasons, of course, but for a discrete handful of reasons, the whole thing just prompted me to one angry rant after another. Just one rant after another on a whole bunch of non-literary subjects, a whole bunch of culture war subjects, that this insanity that's encroaching on our normal world from both the left end of the spectrum and the right end of the spectrum, and on both sides becoming a little bit more normalized when it's insane, no matter how normalized it is. And the mail haul that I did a little bit earlier was just confronting me with one after another of those things. So it ended up being like an hour and 15 minutes long, and I deleted it. Instead, we're going to do a canned mail haul. For today, we won't always be this way, but for today, I'm going to show you some of the books that I've recently got today that I don't think you've seen, and we can read about them together a bit, but without any of the explosive stuff. So the first one is a slim volume of poetry, which I often mock, but in this particular case, it's a poet I love. It's a poet that I revere, one of the greatest poets alive today, Paul Muldoon. And this is his new book, Joy in Service of Rue Tagore, a slim little thing that comes out in September. I love this poet's work, although a lot of times it mystifies me. He has a big collected volume that I have been going back to for years, just trying to excavate my way through that thing. He's a difficult poet, but not in a negative way, not in a reader repulsing way. Not reader repulsa, you Power Rangers fans, but reader repulsing. Constantly having to draw you back on point. So this thing comes out in September. What do we have here? When I originally opened this, I was thinking about the problem that we always encounter with pub sheets for contemporary poetry volumes, even by great poets. What do you do if you're a publicist and you're trying to write a pub sheet like that? And this one says, over the course of his 50-year career, Paul Muldoon has remained one of the most innovative and exciting poets writing in English. Muldoon is constantly toying with, heightening, wrong-footing our language in inventive poems that bring both delight and revelation. In his hands, traditional forms and devices of English poetry are not inert formula to be dutifully executed, but rather live things, sinuous and kicking. I mentioned the first time I talked about this book that one way that you could take to make a pub sheet good for a contemporary poetry, and that's pretty good, although if you're sinuous, you can't kick. But one way you could do it would be to take a slug of whiskey before you write the pub sheet. I think this person did that. In his new book, Muldoon's talents are, as always, on show. He braids together history and the present, finding rhymes and repetitions in imperial Rome and the dismantling of Standard Oil. There are also poems humane and haunting, reckonings with those perennial afflictions of history from which we have not escaped: warfare, disaster, disease. And the pub sheet here tells me the startling fact that this poet was born in 1951. That took me back a bit. And also, it is covered in blurbs. I mean, the front of the sheet has 6 blurbs. The whole back of the sheet is blurbs. Because that's how acclaimed this poet has been forever and ever. And one thing that I noticed when I was finishing up talking about this thing is that I don't, as much as I like Paul Muldoon, as much as I wrestle with his verse in a very good way, I'm not wrestling with it to try and figure out if there's anything good in it. I know that it's good. But as much as I love this author, I don't think I've ever written about him. So, although my first impulse, I've got a couple of you out there who are eager to get slim volumes of poetry from me in order to review them for Open Letters Review. I think in this case, I might want to review this myself in September. I think I might. I won't grapple with it until later on. I won't. Ordinarily, when I get a new book like this, I say I might read through it, but I won't start grappling with it critically to write a review of it until I get the finished copy. But not in this case. I will read this all summer long. I'll grapple with it slowly, but I think I might want to review it myself. Then this next one, we've got two more books to do here. This one is from the University of Chicago Press. This is a 2024 release. I think this is a paperback original. And this is by Elizabeth Harvey and Timothy Harrison. And it's John Donne's Physics. And here the title is an El Greco painting there on the cover. The title is, I think, meant to play a little homophonic action in your brain. Because you're going to hear there are two different ways to sound that out. In 1624, poet and preacher John Donne published Devotions Upon Emergent Questions, a book that recorded his near-death experience during a deadly epidemic in London. 400 years later, in the aftermath of our own pandemic, the authors show how Devotions crystallizes the power, beauty, and enduring strangeness of Donne's thinking, arguing that Donne saw human life in light of emergent ideas in the study of nature, which is physics, and the study of the body, which is physics, Physick. So you've got John Donne's Physics here is doing double work. This book reveals Devotions as accumulating achievement, a radically new literary form that uses poetic techniques to depict Donne's encounter with death in a world transformed by new discoveries and knowledge systems. And so this is a critical and historical study of John Donne, of one work by John Donne. Wonderful. I'm always up for that. I know that a couple of these are published every year, but usually they are way in the fine print of some academic catalog, and I miss them. Or they're so rarefied that there aren't any review copies being sent out because there's not any realistic chance that the book can be reviewed. We'll get a general interest review. This thing strikes me as very amenable to a general purpose review of the type that I write. I just need to figure out when this came out or is coming out. I need to figure out its date so I know where to put it on the newly revised work shelf. And then this next one is by Seth Kimmel. It's called The Librarians Atlas. How's this for a cover? Oh my. Can any of you identify that library? Let's see here. I don't have a sheet for this thing, but I do have the dust jacket. They're all blurbs on the back. The dust jacket says, medieval scholars imagined the library as a microcosm of the world. But as novel early modern ways of managing information facilitated both empire, both in the New World and the Old World, the world became a projection of the library. In this book, the author offers a sweeping material history of how the desire to catalog books coincided in the 16th and 17th centuries with the aspiration to control territory. Through a careful study of library culture in Spain and Morocco, close readings of catalogs, marginalia, indexes, commentaries, and maps. That sounds really good. The author reveals how the book lover's dream of a comprehensive and well-organized library shaped an expanded sense of the world itself. That sounds really good. Who is the author when he's at home? An associate professor of Latin American and Iberian cultures at Columbia University, and the author of one other book, also published by the University of Chicago Press. So this isn't a long thing. I'll have to get the date on it and find out. I'll have to get the date on both of these and find out when they are out and whether or not I need to put them on the list for tonight. All three of these, that represents no more than a third of my reading tonight. So I could start in on all of them tonight. I'll have to check the date on this, hoping that it's a May release. The only question that I have about this, the only problem that I might have with it is if it boils down to Twitter politics. If this is about the end of that line, how the book lover's dream of a comprehensive and well-organized library shaped an expanded sense of the world itself. If that's what this book's about, I will love it. I'm sure that I will love it. Unless it's dry, I will love it. But if this boils down instead to Twitter politics, if the essence of this book is decolonize the library, I will not love it. because that's brainless. Twitter slogans are brainless. And I can't imagine that a guy with these credentials would do that. So I hope for more from this than just decolonize the library. But anyway, that is the remnant. That is a correct fragment, a presentable fragment of the mail. We have the Librarians Atlas, John Donne's Physics, a literary study of John Donne. If it's lively, this could be really good. And a new volume of poetry by Paul Muldoon. I go back to his big, thick, collected poems so often. That has so much marginalia that I often forget that he is a living, working poet. Living, working poets don't just live in big collected editions. They're always coming out with a new volume. So I'm very glad to get the reminder of this. I will grapple with this thing in the best possible way. I will. And there you go. A nice, domesticated, rant-free rendition of a fraction of the day's mail. I know it's going to be frustrating, but it won't be every mail haul. And it's harking back to that very early video from 8 years ago that a lot of you sent me. Only I don't have two sweet old white-faced dogs anymore. In that video I do. I have my old pointer Malin and my Basset Hound Lucy, who's directly underneath my left elbow for most of the video, but at one point her enormous skull starts to appear in the foreground of the video. I watched that video. I don't usually watch my old videos at all, but enough of you sent me that video so that I watched it. And boy, oh boy, you can see the differences. I am much more soft-spoken. I'm much more gentle in affect because I don't want to alarm my senior citizens. But they are senior citizens in that video. They aren't yet patients. The thing that strikes me the most about the video is that at one point Malin gets up from the couch, hops down, and walks into the kitchen. When all my latest memories of her, soon after, no more than a year after that video was made, she stopped being able to do that. She needed help to get up and down off the furniture and could barely walk. At the end, that would have been a miracle. I would have loved to see that at the end, when she was still appearing in videos. Lucy was always kind of an inanimate object, but Malin was able to get up and down off furniture. That was amazing to see that. And also the books. Oh my, the books. There was a book called Northern Aggression that I really wish I still had. There was a biography of Louisa Adams, the wife of John Quincy Adams, and there was a biography of John Quincy Adams that I went on to review, and I blurbed on the paperback. I don't have any of those books anymore. I wish I did. But that was a canned mail haul. I didn't open packages on camera in that video, and I didn't in this. So, a nice, comfortable way to show you some new releases. I know there are a couple of diehard John Donne fans out there. Now you know there's a book coming out that deals with him and could be of interest. And new Paul Muldoon. It's always great. That's always going to be fun. I don't know how much of it I'll understand, but I can't wait to dig into it. But anyway, that's the mail. A bit of mail for Thursday. I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.